Hello everyone and welcome back to another Stat385 video. In this video we are going to introduce Shiny, or R Shiny, and just very generally speaking, R Shiny is a way of providing users with the ability to interact with data through a user interface. And unlike things that we've seen before, it doesn't require R or knowledge of R to use it. And all of the R programming will be done under the hood based on user specifications. Now, I know that's very general. We'll go through it. Okay, so let's first go to Shiny. Okay, get started in R. No web development skills required. Okay, so let's go to the gallery here just to show kind of what this looks like, these Shiny apps that we will work with. Okay, so first of all, here's one that we can demonstrate some basic things that's going on here. So we have here a table of information. This is based off, well, I think the motor trends data set. So I think we've seen something very similar to this. We can, sort it and whatnot. So this is doing, you can imagine this is doing arranges under the hood. We can just look at oddies. So this is doing a filtering under the hood, more filtering if we like, and more filtering. Okay. So we can also do selects. You can imagine this app doesn't have the ability to do it. But this is kind of cool, this little gallery pane, because it shows the app and it shows the code that's being used to create it. Okay, we'll get into all of this in more detail, of course. So let's see, I can actually view the app directly. Okay, cool. Same idea. Audi, whatnot. Okay, cool. So, you've seen filtering and arranging before, so you sort of know what's going on with this interactive table via Shiny, what's kind of going on under the hood, and then you can see, labels and all kinds of stuff here. Okay, so that's a common way of a common type of Shiny app is one where you have a table that the user can scan for some sort of, for their own interest. Maybe it's just general interest, or maybe it's actually, something that's actually important for, company or research or whatever. And then the other one is visualizations that change based on user input. And I'm going to showcase one that I've worked on with David Dalpiez and past students who now have jobs for baseball teams. Okay, so this one is a Shiny application, which I'm not going to get into any of the methodology here, but the idea is that what you want to do, what we're doing is we select a pitcher and a batter, and then the visualization is the where the ball is expected to go based on this matchup. So I have my pitcher set, my batter set. I can change it to anybody, and you can see that this visual will change. Also, the stadium changes. So this can provide somebody with some useful information on where to maybe position fielders or how to deploy lineups or pitchers based on hitters that are about to come up or pitchers that they're going to face. So it could be interesting to something, but it's also fun to play around with. So anyways, but without getting into the analysis context for this or the use case, you can see that based on inputs, in this case I'm selecting pitchers and batters, that outputs are changing based on these inputs. And this one has multiple tabs, and it has a pretty clean layout overall. Okay, so these are these interactive data sets where a lot of R code is working under the hood, but all the user sees is, I want to do some task, in this case, see like where the ball is going to go for when a particular batter faces a particular pitcher and I want to see the visualization. It doesn't require any R to use it at all. But then under the hood, there's a lot going on. Okay, so, right, so this is, yeah, and then these galleries are actually pretty cool. I particularly like this one. Well, I'm just going to go to it because I like it. But you can see all kinds of cool stuff that you can do with this. So this is Movie Explorer. Yellow points are won an Oscar, no, and gray. And then you can do filtering based on the minimum number of reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, year. Of course, if I change this to 0 to 1, it's just going to pull out the Oscar winners. What's cool about this one too is you can sort by genres, but also you can change the what's actually displayed on the axes. So maybe I could do dollar at box office and how about numeric rating? So you can look at, well, you can definitely see that it looks like there's a clustering of Oscars around high numeric ratings, which I guess, I don't know what numeric rating is, or I haven't looked at it in a while. Oh. Okay, so you can see here that it's actually defined. So this is actually a pretty useful app because it does a lot of things. It allows you to, take this two-dimensional representation of the data, but look at different two-dimensional representations with this other variable here on won Oscars. And then you can actually click on the points and it has information on the actual movie itself. What movie is that? Whoa. Avatar was expensive to make. Okay, cool. Yeah, and this kind of gives a demonstration is me. Normally you see me as as a coder in these videos, and now here I am looking at somebody else's app with like a sense of awe and trying to learn on like what this is, but I can actually play around with this to find things that I'm actually interested in. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, we finally see some filtering as we get closer in time. Okay, anyways, so we're not going to go into these sort of like when you move your cursor over the points and get specific information, but yeah, so this is a Shiny app. We have filtering, we have select, I guess, in some sense, for displaying which variables we actually want to display on the graphs, and you can get the code for this. Pretty cool. Of course, this is in a GitHub repo. Pretty intense. Okay, so yeah, I mean, if you want to, one of the things that sorry to digress again. So in this class, you're gonna leave with a grade, obviously, but this final project that you're gonna end up doing, where you create a Shiny app, is something that you can take with you beyond the class, and it's something that you could highlight on a website of yours or on a resume or something like that to show your sophistication with R, demonstrated in how you can create a useful interactive Shiny application that could be interesting and useful to you, but also demonstrating your abilities as an R programmer, and in the best case could be just widely interesting to anybody else. And we'll go through how to display your work in just a sec. Okay, so now I have R open. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch gears and go to R, and we'll start from the basics and introduce this tool. Also, I should say that there is a cheat sheet, and just like everything else, the cheat sheet has a lot of material. It doesn't have all of the material on Shiny, and we will go over some of the material on this cheat sheet in this short introduction. Okay, so how do I do this in R? So first of all, we are going to create a new project, and we'll do a new directory. And so normally we've done, or at least when we created our Stat385 R project, which I've saved on my desktop, now we're gonna, instead of creating a new project, we're gonna create a Shiny application. Okay, so I'm gonna save it on my desktop. We'll call it first app. Okay. Here you can create a Git repo with it. We're not gonna do that. Okay, create it. Okay, so now our studio is creating a project. You can see the path, desktop, first app, and then in it is the R project itself and this app.r file, which contains the code to build a bare bones default Shiny app using the Old Faithful data. I'm pretty sure that the gallery has, oh, wait, no, Faithful right here. This is basically, oh, it takes a little bit to load. This is more or less, I guess it's a slightly different app than what this creates. Let's run it. So I'm gonna go to run app, see what it does. Okay, it displays in the viewer, that's fine. Okay, and you can see that if I change this, then some of the panels move. Okay, so yeah, this one's slightly different. Okay, so this is a working Shiny app that contains enough functionality to actually work and do something. So I can move the bins and the graphic changes. Get rid of this. Is my head in the way? That's fine. Okay. So you can see here that the histogram of waiting times changes as I change the number of bins. So under the hood, what's going on here? I have some data on frequency of Old Faithful geyser eruptions and waiting time to next eruption. Okay, and then I'm displaying this distribution, and I can choose the granularity to which I want to display this distribution by changing around the number of bins. Obviously, if I pick 1 bin or 3 bins, not very interesting. If I pick 5 bins or 50 bins, it may be interesting, but it may be too fine. And you can see kind of like a bimodal type behavior. Anyways, okay, we're doing analysis. We don't need to, but yeah, they're fun, even if they're basic. Okay, so what we are gonna do is go through essentially the in blue part here on the cheat sheet, just the basic components of a Shiny app. Okay, so a Shiny app is gonna be built out of 4 main components. We have the Shiny package itself that you need to load it, and it's not included in base R. So you have to, install .packages if you don't have it. Then there is a user interface, which is all of this. And that's going to, roughly speaking, that's going to display where all of the visualizable parts of the app are displayed in something called a fluid page. And that's, if I change the size of my viewer, you can see that the locations of things change. So that's sort of what fluid means in this context, fluid page. And then server is kind of the nuts and bolts of allowing the reactivity to occur between the user changing around the inputs and what is displayed. Okay, and then, so that's 3. We have Shiny package itself, user interface, UI, server, and then the Shiny app function, which just kind of binds these 2 things together. Okay, and so within that binding is a set of inputs given in a list, or a list type thing, and a set of outputs also given in a list. And essentially, the user specifies the inputs on the interface side, and then work is done, and then the outputs change from the server function and then are displayed back to the user in the interface. So there's this connectivity between the 2 that is wrapped together in this Shiny app function. Okay, so that's, again, very general, very broad to what's going on here. Okay, so let's just play around with it and see what happens. Okay, so first of all, I have this thing that says application title, and there's a title panel. So let's see if I do title of Shiny app, oops, and then reload it and see what happens. This is a good way to learn to see what's going on here. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so that changes the title in this title panel. And then we have a sidebar layout with a sidebar panel, and we have a particular input here. Okay, so let's say if I change, you can see number of bins. This is just a label. All right, reload. And you can see it change. Ooh, man, that's bad. Okay. And then you can see some values. If I were to say minimum 5, max equals 60, value equals 35. So right now it's 1 to 50, and it's set at 30. This would just change some of that. Okay. Okay. So what's going on under the hood here? So this is just doing a simple layout of where things are going to be displayed, but the main tool that that the user interacts with is this slide bar, or the slider input thing. What happens if I change this? Okay, now something happened under the hood. Okay, didn't like this. Okay, so slider input. So number of bins is just a label, and then these are allowable values for the user to specify or to play around with the default setting. Let's just change it back to the defaults. Come with it. Okay, so this actually did something. Okay, so if I go to slider input, the first thing here is an input ID. And this is like a name in a list, essentially. So over here, what's going on is that when I get into my server function, which is inputs and outputs, I have my input list. I just changed the name to one of the elements in it. And so now this is referenced with the old name, which is just bins lowercase. Okay, so that actually created a problem, changing the slider input there. Now I could do this and do this. That should work. It does. Okay. So bins. So essentially, what I have going on here is that by adding this slider bar, I have to give it an input ID, and then all this other information, which is necessary for the user to specify and necessary to communicate what is going on to the user, what this slider bar actually is doing. Okay, so, but when I add one of these, it's creating an element in a list, essentially, of input values that need to get passed on to the server. And so the ID is sort of the name in that list. And so I have to have some consistency between the labels and the labels that I actually declare, and the names that are referenced inside of the server function. Okay, great. So we have histogram of waiting times. Let's see. Okay, so what am I doing? So what is this actually doing? First of all, I want to get rid of these assignment operators. Space. Okay, that's fine. So essentially, I am getting the faithful data set, which is already in R. Let's just close this and see it really quick. Faithful. Okay. And it's getting the second column. Oh, that's right. the waiting time distribution, and then it's creating bins based on the input, based on the user input in the range of this data. And then it's displaying the waiting time distribution based on the bins specified by the users in a histogram call. Okay, so this is base R, this this histogram call, but maybe we could do something with ggplot. That would be a little bit more fun. Okay, so let's see here. You know what? I think I need to actually library 2. Okay. So let's do ggplots x. Okay. Okay. So let's see here. So okay. So I did this. Okay. So let's get rid of all of this. Okay, so that's not going to work. Data equals faithful. All right. AES x equals. Okay, what is this again? Okay, faithful. Call names. Okay, waiting. Plus geom histogram. Okay. So let's see what happens here. Okay. So now I can, change from the base R stuff to this nice histogram. Okay. Using ggplot. All right. So, however, there's no reactivity anymore. That's all gone. Okay. So, yeah, right, because there's no actual input. There's no input thing going on here. So if I do bins equals input $bins, now what happens? Let's reload it. Cool. Now I'm back. Okay. I don't like the gray, so I'm gonna add a theme. Minimal. We could do more stuff. We could get rid of the lines, but for the sake of time, I'm just gonna go with this. Okay. Actually, I kind of like the reference lines in this case. So actually, yeah, I'm gonna keep them, or I would keep them. Okay. Let's see here, labs. Okay, title. Wait, what was? Let's do histogram. Waiting times. Let's do distribution. Waiting times. Okay, and then let's do forget what it. Okay, YLab. Oh no. Okay, I forget the names. Okay. Question mark labs. Oh, I could just do, oh, I see. Okay. Plus YLab frequency. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, looks pretty good. All right, title of Shiny app. Old faithful waiting. Okay, I'm gonna put this back to the default too. Okay, so I now have a ggplot histogram to display the distribution of waiting times from the Old Faithful geyser. And the app lets the user specify the number of bins for the histogram to display this distribution. Namely, it adjusts the sort of the granularity to display this distribution. Okay, so let's see here. And you can see here that it started with base R functionality, but now I changed it to ggplot. So maybe I got a little bit too in the weeds too early on. Okay, so we understand that there is a slider bar for the number of bins that the user controls, and based on that slider, things are getting passed down inside the server function and referenced, and then a plot is changed based on those bins. We kind of get that. That all makes sense. So just to drive the point home, what's going on in the server function here is that we are creating an output list with an element called distribution plot, which is this plot that is changing based on the user input. It's being rendered, and as the input changes, the output plot changes, and then these two things are tied together, and so that after that plot is rendered based on new user input, we can see here on the user input that there's this plot output thing in this main panel. And that is this element of this output list, which is dist plot. So you can see here, I've highlighted it and it shows up here. So I have Shiny app tying together user interface and server. The user interface specifies a layout of different things, and in that layout is a feature that allows for the user to change something in the data. In this case, it's going to change a visualization based on this histogram that we're doing. And then what that's doing is it's creating an input list and changing a value in that list. That gets passed down into the server function, which is a function of two lists. And we can see that the input is changed here, and then that change is inside of something that is eventually stored into an output list given the name dist plot, and then that is both these things tied together, goes back to the user interface and is displayed as output that is now changed. So we have change made, work done with that change in mind, and then displayed change. That's how it's working under the hood. Okay, so there are many different things to do that you can do for with these Shiny apps in mind, like the different types of visualizations that you can make. So one of the first things that we showed was a basic data table using, I think, that Motor Trends Cars data set. But you can see here that there is a render data table thing, just like there was a render plot that we worked with. There's render plot. You can actually, if you squint, you can see that looks like a bimodal distribution, possibly the Old Faithful data set. There's all kinds of different renders that you can do. There's also different inputs that you can do. We did slider input right here, but there's all kinds of different other inputs you can do, like checkbox group or numeric inputs, select inputs, so forth and so on. Okay. And then this kind of gives a description of how the reactivity works, which we've displayed, where you have input, then there's reactive code under the hood, changes in output, which is then displayed. Okay, and there's themes that we can do, just like there's themes with ggplot, which I added, but you can do themes here. So, and then there's more advanced things to do with like layouts, how to position. Well, actually, the positioning isn't advanced, but there's different positioning that you can do to organize your app. And then there is, if you know CSS, JavaScript, HTML, you can do all kinds of stuff. And I'll get into that in just a second. So, okay. So one thing that you can do here is if you're happy with your app, you could go and publish it. Oops, I don't want to actually do that. Okay. It'll give you some packages, and then you could have it go to Shiny Apps IO. So I'll actually go to one of mine. Where is it? Aha. So this gets into, actually, yeah, this is great because it'll get into some of the HTML stuff too. Okay, so this is a Shiny app that I've made to supplement some of my baseball research on comparing players across eras. This is just more of a general introduction to the project in which we show that traditional metrics or assessments for players based on opinion polls or experts or media sources all kind of tend to over-include past players in their rankings of all-time players. So this is a Shiny app. Now it looks very different than the one that we've created over here. And the difference is messing with CSS themes and HTML. So I was able to add these paragraphs just by doing HTML and integrating it in. Now, when you get to the actual Shiny stuff, it's the same thing as Old Faithful. It's just more stuff going on. It's more filtering going on. And then it has an action button so that you can make your choices. And then based on those choices, you can submit, and then a graphic is displayed. Ooh, what happened there? Okay. Something happened. Okay. Cool. So you can see how if I change this, I can add things and the numbers change. There's numbers over here that change and there's plots over here that change. But basically it's just the same idea that there's inputs that specify all these slider bars, this selection window, and then there's outputs that display a clean graphic with ggplot and a clean table over here. And then there's hyperlinks and all kinds of stuff. So this is kind of what you can do, with it. This is one example of something you can do. So I use this to supplement my research, but under the hood, this is just Shiny with HTML, CSS, bells and whistles, and just more stuff going on. But what I decided to do, because I like this app, is that I have published it on Shiny Apps IO. It's free to do it, and so I've done it. And you can do that here if you create an app that you like. Okay, so we have at this point explored some, more, we've explored the gallery of Shiny apps, this cheat sheet for getting started. We've got started with a basic Shiny app that comes with default, or that comes with the Shiny package, and then file this new project Shiny app, and then we've explored how this app actually works and how the different pieces are connected together in this basic app. Okay, so let's add to it. Let's take this app and now add a new feature to it. Okay, so we're gonna add to it. Let's give an option for the users to change the color of these of the bars. Okay, so let's just see. Okay, so I'm just in Geom histogram. I'm changing an argument around. And what happens? Ooh, I always get this. I think I want Phil. Is that right? Phil. Okay. All right. So, here you can see that if I play around with the app, play around with the bins, that's great, but it would be nice if the users could change it around. Okay, so let's go to our, okay, how about this one? Select input. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. All right, so I have my sidebar panel, select input, and then, you can change the layout if you want. You can look over here, but I'm going to just keep the basic layout. But I want to add this thing. So I have right here, you think of it again as a list. So this is an input. It's in the form of a slider. I'm going to add another named element to the list. And so I have a comma here, and I need to close the parenthesis. All right, so let's call it, okay, input ID. We'll call it bar color. Oops. Color of bars. Okay, what are some of the other arguments? Choices. Equals, let's do blue, orange. All right. And selected. So the initially selected value, let's say blue. Okay. So nice, I can change. Oh, well, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? It didn't work because I didn't do anything with the output. I didn't change the server function at all. So now I have input bins. I want fill equals input. And what was this called? I think it was called bin color, bar color. Perhaps I should do bin color. That might be easier to read. I'm running out of space. Okay, that should do this. That should do the trick. Let's reload the app. Cool. Okay, so now the user, let's full screen this. Now the user can change the color of the bars. I just added a feature to this. All right. Pretty fun. Okay, cool. So this is just a brief introduction to Shiny. Yeah, feel free to play around with this. Go to the gallery here. You can see. So this gallery is organized by feature demos, which show like specific features and functions of the Shiny package. You can start as simple as you want. This is kind of cool because it does k-means clustering, which does some statistics under the hood or classification. And then there's also these nice interactive visualizations. And then there's also like really cool apps that users have made that they display on this site, including a COVID tracker, all kinds of stuff, crazy visualizations. Yeah, this is something that I use with my to supplement my own research and of course to teach these classes, but to supplement my research. And yeah, this is something that's very, very powerful and something that you can take with you after this class. So the project is meant to be, just that. You will get a grade in this class, but you also have this thing that you can take with you and you can publish these apps. You need the packages to do it. You can see that I've already done my own here for something that actually, is something that I have decided to publish and it supplements my research, and I've written articles about it. So I've published a paper, put an article on a public facing platform, and I have a link to this app so that people can, read my work and then play around with it. So this links to the actual paper itself, and so everything here is connected. So I think it's a very powerful thing for supplementing research in addition to, all the things that you could use it for too, showing your coding ability or, teaching classes or whatever, working in a company, all of it. It's very useful stuff. All right, I'm rambling. I'm clearly rambling. Okay, so we've reached the end of the video. This is an introduction to Shiny. I will see you next time. All right, take care. Bye.